And now the federal government has debunked claims that it plans to increase the value-added tax VAT rate from 7.5% to 10%. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, disclosed this in a statement posted by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga. Edun explained that the tax system is built on 3 pillars: tax policy, tax laws, and tax administration. For this conversation, we're now joined by the Director General of Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Chinyere Almona. Dr. Almona will also discuss the impact of the new fuel price increase on the economy. Good to have you on Arise News, Dr. Almona.
Thanks for having me, Temitope.
Well, we know that there has been a lot of controversies trailing the proposed hike. We know that federal government has debunked the claims that they are going to hike the VAT rate. But we'd like to get your reactions to all of these stories.
Well, like you said, the federal government has debunked the claim. But I believe that when we think about the VAT rate, we need to look at it a bit more broadly. Since we haven't received any additional guidelines concerning this, you don't know exactly what they're taxing and how broad that is. You don't know what services or what products. Now, when I think about it, over the years, we've always said that one of the things that government needs to do differently is to bring more people into the tax net. So, and also tax the smaller businesses less. So there has to be, even if there's going to be an increase, there has to be a broader, robust communication about the modalities so that at the end of the day, we achieve that goal of not taxing the small businesses or the poor too much, but also increasing the tax net.
But Dr. Almona, I'm wondering, should we actually be talking about increasing taxes? Should we even be hearing such reports, especially at a time when the price of petrol has just been increased? What are your thoughts on this?
So, like you rightly said at the beginning, government has debunked this news. And because there's a presidential committee working on the taxes, there is plan to harmonize, which is why I said it has to be a holistic, a bouquet of things and communication. So it's not just taking VAT and say we're going to increase it. There has to be a whole strategy around it. Having said that, you're also correct that this is a time when Nigerians are facing a lot of hardship with the increase in power, increase in fuel, increase in food, rising prices all over the place. So yes, you're right, it's probably not the best time, but there has to be a strategy, and like government has debunked it. So we hope that it isn't something that will add to the problems of the common man. Because today businesses are struggling because the cost of doing business, cost of production is so high. And as the cost of production is rising, the purchasing power of the common man is dwindling. So something has to give. And the messaging around increased taxes isn't a welcome development.
Well, statements coming from the LCCI, which of course you represent, says that these hike in PMS will lead to the death of many businesses. And of course, that goes without saying. We've seen the impact on so many SMEs who are struggling with all of the economic crisis. But tell us how bad the situation is. We know that currently the price of fuel is going, it's above 900 naira, some places even as high as 1,200 naira. Tell us how bad the situation is.
The situation is very bad. It's very bad because fuel affects everything across board. So when you think about manufacturers and their ability to transport their goods, it affects it. When you think about transportation for people moving from one place to the other, it affects that. So in terms of even just livelihood and the movement of things across the country, it's affected by a hike in fuel cost. Now, unfortunately, there isn't even a uniform position. So in some filling stations in Lagos, you're getting 900, in some places 1,002, and all of this will need to be plowed into the cost of goods and services. And if you're plowing into the cost of goods and services and the population can't pay, then you as a service provider or you as a product manufacturer, you will struggle with the things that you produce at the end of the day. So yes, we did say if this is not curtailed, then the chances are that businesses are going to stop production. Remember that if we were layering a lot of costs on the common man, you're going to have a situation where staff members, your employees are going to say, please pay us more, because we can't move ourselves from one place to the other. And if we can't come to work, that means a lot of inefficiency. But even if we can come to work, you have to pay us more. So if that cost is going to be borne by businesses, they have to find a way to channel that cost. And it's not even going into the consumers because the consumers can't pay. So yeah, it's really bad. And we hope that government can step up and help the Nigerian citizens cope with these difficult times.
Now, recent reports shows, that the country's GDP grew by 2.98%. But I'm wondering, how has this GDP growth reflected on the realities in people's pockets?
So the fractional increase in GDP was really basically around the services. So if you look at the matrix, services, financial services, insurance services, this increased slightly. And also with the increase in oil prices, crude oil prices, and the marginal increase in our production capacity, that's what's causing this slight increase in GDP. I won't be overly excited until I see this happen over a period of time. So today, we are seeing this GDP has increased slightly, but the impact on the populace, the impact on the purchasing power, the impact on the cost of goods and services, we are not feeling it yet. So we're not celebrating. We haven't gone to town celebrating this slight increase. We're just saying we are watching to see that this is consistent and that it can be supported by the realities on ground. It can be supported by our productive capacity at the end of the day.
Mm. And looking at some comments also from other sectors concerning the economic crisis that we're facing, what do you think can be done better? Some have said that the federal government should have effected some measures to cushion the impact of the subsidy removal and also the forex unification. What do you think the government should have put in place to reduce the effect or the impact of the subsidy removal?
Well, the plan, after the subsidy was removed, and over time we felt that, look, you need to put in place certain things to ameliorate the suffering. There was talk about CNG buses and how that can help transportation, ease the transportation burden. I do agree. However, we should have put in place some plan to get the CNG buses working, get the stations where vehicles or buses can refill and all of those. So we haven't thought through the infrastructure. Until date, I don't see a lot of information about where we are on that trajectory. If we want to develop a whole infrastructure around it to help Nigerians move around, we need to work on it. The other thing is a lot of times we have to think about the cost of food. So one thing that's pushing our the inflation rate higher and higher is cost of food. And there are several factors, right? One, which is insecurity. If the farmers can't go to farm, they're not safe on the farm, they're not safe carrying their goods from the farm to the market, then there's a high cost of feeding the nation. Also around the cost of food, we haven't thought through how do we even preserve what we are producing. So we have huge post-harvest losses. And if a farmer is producing 100% and will lose 50%, chances are the cost of all the 100% goes into the remaining 50% that he will have. So that's affecting the cost of food. The average man needs food, good food. And so we must think, how do we reduce the cost of food? What can government do? So there was the when we had some levies removed from importation of certain grains, that is helpful, but nobody still knows how is that going. I think one of the challenges we have is we have some great guidelines or policies or reforms, but we never stop to say, okay, so how are we doing with it? It's been a while since government announced those rebates on importation of these grains, but nobody has come back to say, okay, so we've imported so quantity, and this is how it's going, this is where it's getting to. I read somewhere today that it's difficult to even find the 40,000 naira bag of rice that we say will be available, So we make all these pronouncements, but then implementation, we fail at the point of implementation. We fail at the point of accountability. Nobody is checking what is doing. Nobody is reporting. And so it just goes into the air that we said something, and the common man isn't feeling any of it.
Now, amidst all this harsh economic realities, some analysts still believe Nigeria needs to raise its internally generated revenue, especially in light of its debt portfolio. So I'm wondering, how can we achieve this, without further impoverishing already struggling Nigerians?
I believe that having the right infrastructure, right policies in place to help businesses survive will be good. Today, businesses are struggling from every point, apart from even, the challenges with levies and all that, and the cost of fuel. We also have the bureaucratic challenges with doing business. It is, it's mind-blowing. A business starts, and you get all of these charges and, multiplicity of taxes all over the place. And so the business cannot survive. If we don't have a framework that encourages or helps businesses to survive, then we can't increase production. If we can't increase production, then you can't begin to, improve the livelihood within the nation. We need to also try and boost exports. And there are so many things we can export. If we do well with agriculture, we can export certain things. There are countries where they're looking for our spices, our grains, and all that. But beyond just, getting them and exporting them, we need to have the infrastructure to process. Because when we export our stuff raw, that means we are getting the tiniest fraction of income from that. But if we can establish a productive capacity to process some of these things, even with solid minerals, there are so many areas where we can boost export capacity if we are intentional about it. Also, even the fact of exporting. Some of our members who are into the export sector, they struggle to export. It is so difficult to export. And these are things that government needs to do to loosen the challenges, to remove all the burdens for businesses to thrive.
That the government of the day and all relevant stakeholders are, paying attention, and of course will put all of this into place so that we can have a better economy. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Chinyere Almona, DG LCCI.